Hi guys, my name is Trinity, and if you're here to talk about books because that's why I'm here. Today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about my first love. That would be Gothic literature. Yes, I do gravitate towards Gothic horror, but I want to give you guys kind of an overview of Gothic horror because there's so many people who ask me for recommendations on Gothic horror or Gothic literature, and it kind of spans multiple genres. So trying to direct people to Gothic horror is like pick your favorite epic fantasy. It's not really going to be all that easy when you start considering all the different subgenres. So I wanted to go ahead and give you guys like a quick overview. We're kind of going to start with what is a Gothic novel, what are the elements of Gothic novels. I'm going to give recommendations based on where to start, what to read if you're an intermediate reader, and some recommendations for what I love and a little bit of what's on my TBR. So it may sound like this video is going to run long, but I don't think it will. So one of the most important elements of a Gothic novel is creepy atmosphere, a haunted house, a castle, something along those lines where we know going into it there's something wrong with this place. Gothics usually use a ton of atmosphere in the writing, in the way that things are presented, and everything has a little bit of a darker edge to it. And I love that because atmosphere is really important to me when reading because I need to feel. And the first things that taught me that I can get really wrapped up and amped up in a book are Gothic novels. Mystery and suspense. Yes, this is a huge, huge factor in Gothic novels. And the reason for this is because in a Gothic novel, you have a lot of buildup to the main horror. The main thing that is just going to blow your mind or be completely unexpected or just freak you out. The thing that we were building up to towards the end of the book, that's what you're waiting on. You're wanting the mystery and the suspense, and you know something's coming. I've talked about how in fantasy I don't really like slow build novels because the payoff's not there, but in a Gothic novel, that is what you are holding out for. That is what that slow pacing, that eerie atmosphere is building to. Omens, portents, the supernatural. These are always a feature of Gothic novels as well, whether it be some type of ghost or a curse or something along those lines. They're always going to be an element of a Gothic novel, something that takes it a little over the top. One other feature of Gothic novels is women in distress. This does happen often, and it is a big feature of Gothic novels. And one of the reasons for that is women tend to have an emotional reaction. And when you're building a Gothic novel and all of these overwrought emotions are coming to the forefront of this story, it's easy to cast a woman in that role. I have yet to see it done from a man's POV, and that would be interesting. But I don't know how much tension would be built by changing the main character from a woman to a man. In most, but not all, Gothic novels, there is also the sense of the macabre, the grotesque, something that is probably going to gross you out in some form or fashion. It doesn't always have to be ew gross, but sometimes the situation is ew gross. And I also really enjoy that because I like feeling the heebie-jeebies. I like getting that, ugh, like, what was that about? Kind of moments when I'm reading a Gothic novel. Okay, now let's go ahead and talk about the two young adult novels that I think are absolute great, perfect primers for Gothic literature. If you don't know if you want to get into it and you really are just on the edge of your seat thinking, I don't think it's for me. I don't think it's for me. The first I would recommend is Horrid by Katrina Leno. I've said multiple times that I think that this is the perfect Gothic horror primer, and it's true because it covers a lot of the Gothic tropes that you come to love and expect from Gothics if you like them. But it tones it down. This is young adult, so not everything is a wow moment in this book, but it's really well written. It's really well done. And I think that if you are looking for an entryway into Gothics, this covers a lot of the tropes that you'll see in a Gothic novel. We have a haunted house aspect. We have a ghost. We have mental instability. That's one I forgot to cover. We have all of the tropes that, again, are in Gothic literature in this book, and it's really well done. Next would be the 12 Dancing Princesses retelling that has become quite popular, and that would be The House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. I would also recommend Small Favors by her. It's also very Gothic. But 12 Dancing Princesses is a classic Gothic story. And this being a retelling, you do get a feel for the original story, but it's told in a very digestible way. And the gross does come through in House of Salt and Sorrows, so be prepared for that. But I think this is just fantastically well done, well written, great pacing. I felt the tension. I knew that she was going to become an author for me after finishing this book, and especially now after finishing Small Favors. Small Favors does lean into the supernatural elements a little bit more. Well, I don't even know if it's a little bit more, but it has almost a witchy, fae type aspect to it, where this one has a supernatural, magical element to it, but not necessarily witchy. Okay, next, if you're an intermediate reader, I'm going to give you 3 recommendations of books that I have read recently that I think really capture the Gothic elements that we talked about at the beginning of this video. All the Murmuring Bones by A.G. Slater. Now, this is a book about mermaids, so it does take a little bit of a spin on a Gothic tale by introducing mermaids to the story. But still, all of the elements of the creepy, the macabre, the supernatural, all of that is still in this book and really well done. The big horror that we build up to is an awesome reveal. I absolutely loved this one. All right, The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. Now, this is a mystery novel. We talked about in the beginning, Gothic novels have a sense of mystery to them, so it stands to reason there can be some crossover. I really, really enjoyed this. Of course, we have a sanatorium that is the setting here, and we have some elements of the supernatural going on, but we don't know if it's supernatural or if someone is causing it. We also have mental instability, and our main character is a detective, and she is on medical leave for mental instability, and the reason she is going to this sanatorium is to escape and try and get some peace. And the sanatorium has been renovated. It's not actually a sanatorium, it's a hotel that was once a sanatorium. But I really, really enjoyed this one. And of course, I can't be doing a recent Gothic novel recommendation list without Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Thoroughly enjoyed this book. Yes, it does get gross at the end. I've said this a million times that, yeah, like Gothic focuses on the grotesque and the macabre quite often. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. I gave this one 5 stars. It's impeccable, and I think everyone should read it. Okay, so those are the recommendations that I would give for intermediate. Then for those who want to venture into the classics, the book that launched 1,000 other books, we have Jane Eyre. Yes, this is Gothic, and there are many reasons it's Gothic. If you want to know the reasons, watch the very beginning of this video. Jane Eyre is Gothic. And if you know the story of Jane Eyre, there are multiple books that you could pick up that have been Jane Eyre retellings. However, one that I recently read would be The Wife Upstairs. Now, none of these people are good people, so if you need a hero, don't pick up The Wife Upstairs. But I absolutely loved it, and I loved its riff on Jane Eyre. I thought it was great. There are many, many other books that you could pick up. I tend not to pick up Jane Eyre retellings because I know how it's going to end. Like, there's not much else you can do with that ending. But I definitely think Jane Eyre is somewhere that you should start if you want to start with a classic, or, you know, find Jane Eyre retellings. That would be another thing that you could look for. And then, of course, Frankenstein. Now, Frankenstein is not officially Gothic, but it does fall under a lot of the same banners that Gothic novels fall into. And as far as a classic novel goes, yes, this is my Alcrate version of Frankenstein, but I thoroughly enjoyed this book when I was younger. I thoroughly enjoyed it when I read it as an adult, and I think it's a great start if you want to start in classics. Now, of course, we have things that have been done time and time again, such as Turn of the Screw, The Woman in Black, Carmilla. Do I think that these are great places to start? Not really. No, not if you haven't gotten into the feel, the vibe of Gothic novels. I think that those might be a little off-putting to start at. But then there's also Rebecca. And you can't talk about Gothic novels without talking about Jane Eyre and Rebecca. This has also been done many times over. And an obvious Rebecca retelling that I have on my TBR is The Death of Jane Lawrence. I've been dying to get to this, and I'm really hoping that I can get to it soon. It has been on my TBR card for a little while, but I neglected to put it on my Pop Sugar Challenge. I really should have, because I tend to focus on those books throughout the year. But I'm really looking forward to getting into this, and again, having another Gothic retelling, any retellings, I'm usually quite a fan of, just because I love reliving the story again. And from a different writing style, I guess I should say. And then the other Gothic book that has hit my radar is The Hacienda. Now, this has been compared to Mexican Gothic and Rebecca, so I really think that I'm going to enjoy this. You've compared it to one of my recent favorites and a favorite of the classics of Gothic novels. And so I'm looking forward to this quite a bit. All right, I hope that was helpful, and I hope if you've had an interest in Gothic novels and didn't know where to start, that you have found somewhere you can start with what I have offered today. That's it for me today. Like, subscribe, do all the fun things, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!